All right, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another great episode of Black Geek Energy. Today, I am thrilled to introduce a powerhouse in the world of children's media and voiceover production. As an award-winning author or the award-winning owner, excuse me, and director of Pep's Quality VO and sound design in New York City, and Pep's Quality Portugal in Lisbon, Paula brings over 25 years of international experience in directing, casting, acting, and production management. Her
Hmm.
visionary work has not only earned her 11 Parents' Choice Awards, but also helped her projects amass over, okay, get this, 1 billion views on YouTube. From managing multinational production teams to pioneering diverse storytelling in children's content, Paula's impact on the industry is undeniable. Please, everybody, join me in welcoming the incredible, the livacious Paula Gammon Wilson to Black Geek Energy. Woo!
Hey, well, Jared, one question. Spell
Wow.
vivacious. What does that mean?
Look, I use Google to help me look up these words.
That intro was wow. Okay. Thank y'all. Thank you. I'm still processing. Thank you. That was lovely. Thank you.
Paula,
No, glad to
you,
have you. Yeah.
yes,
So,
all that stuff is stuff that you did, and you definitely deserve your flowers. So thank you for being on
Thank
the
you.
show.
I appreciate it very much. What
great.
can I answer for you, lovely people? What can
So
we
usually how we like to start, because a lot of times when we have guests on, is maybe my first time meeting them, Jared's really plugged in, and it's our audience first time getting to know you. So maybe like just like a little background, a little getting to know you segment. So like I don't know, like the typical things like where are you from? How did you get to where you are?
Okay, the Cliff Notes version of my life. So I'm originally from Maine, which is, there
Okay.
are no Black people in Maine except for my family, basically. And uh,
That's a crab state, right?
yeah, so you got lobsters and you got lots of white people, and then there's us. And so, um, so I grew up in Maine, and then I spent a lot of my childhood in Arkansas and
Mm,
Tennessee with my mother's family.
okay.
And I always knew pretty early on that I liked working in production. I started out as an actor, kind of, but I always loved what was going on behind the scenes.
All right.
And I had the opportunity to go to a performing and visual arts high school in Massachusetts called Walnut Hill. It still exists. It's
Mm,
a very good school. And at the time, they had a design and production program. They're the only school for high school students that had a major in that particular field. And so I was originally accepted as a theater major and transferred into the program my sophomore year. And part of being at Walnut Hill at the time, I'm not sure it's still that way, but you had to work in whatever your chosen major was during the summer. And so every year after the school year ended, I would go intern somewhere.
Okay.
And this is when, this is in the 90s when internships were paid because
Yeah.
so you could actually like live on an internship. So I would go during the summer and your housing and your food were paid for and you got a stipend. And I worked at theaters every summer. And so by the time I finished at Walnut Hill, I was already working professionally in Boston and other areas. And I went off to college in California,
Mhm.
where I double majored and triple minored because I wanted to focus
Triple
on,
minor.
yeah, I wanted to focus on
Oof.
production for dance, and
Okay.
there wasn't really a major that was that. So I double majored in theater management and dance, and then minored in costume design, ethnomusicology, and women's studies, so that I could sort of get everything I wanted. It was the only way I could make my education work the way I wanted. Um, which this is where things sort of took a weird turn.
Okay.
So I was dancing and production managing in college, working steadily in LA as well, and going off to intern every summer still, and getting better and better work. And then um, one of my dance teachers said, "You've never auditioned for something from a non-managerial standpoint. You should try that. Like, go put the number on your chest to see what that's like, so that you can better empathize with the dancer experience, et cetera, and so forth." Um, so I basically opened Dance Magazine and sort of did a like, put my finger on a page kind of thing to find an audition.
Right.
And it was for the Alvin Ailey School's professional division. And so when I went home to Maine that winter, I took a bus down to New York, spent the night at a hotel, went into Ailey, auditioned, like really just like do, this is an experiential researchy thing. Yeah.
Right.
And they took 10 dancers that day, and I was the 9th name called. So I left college and went and danced for the next 5 years. And then
For Alvin Ailey, I don't think that we are
Right.
not for Alvin Ailey. No, no, no.
No.
We can't gloss over that fact. You danced for Alvin Ailey.
No, wait. So the professional division is the feeder school for the company. So it's a conservatory. So I went and studied at the conservatory.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's still
like for a year. Yeah.
You know who Alvin Ailey is.
Yeah. But I stayed at the
Alvin Ailey.
conservatory for a year. It was a great year. I learned a lot about myself. And then I was I had the chance to come back for a second year, but I'd started to work in New York quite regularly. So I was like, well, I could keep spending money and, working on the side, paying for school, or I could start working. So I did go off and just dance, did, music videos and plays and, the life of a dancer. And then I also kept stage managing. So I got my union card, worked off Broadway, did one show on Broadway. It was really like working as a production manager. And I would go back and forth. So I'd do a production management gig and then I'd do a dance gig and do a production management gig and do a dance gig. Then I went back and finished school. And at that point, I knew that I was going to try to shift my focus into more directing, both for theater and television. I was just sort of figuring myself out as I went. So I went back and finished school and got a degree in liberal arts with a focus on screenwriting and third world cinema, because that was the stuff I didn't quite know yet. And then I got a job in South Korea. And so I moved to South Korea to direct musicals.
Wow. How old are you?
I know, right?
Because I'm looking at my life. I'm like, all right, got my.
I'm in my late 40s. So this is like, I've had some time to build this stuff up. So,
wow.
So I moved out to South Korea, and then I went from South Korea to Argentina, and Argentina to the UK, and the UK back to the US briefly, and then to Dubai, and then back to the US where I stayed. And when I came back that second time, I needed a job.
Right.
and I was hired as an associate producer for a small dubbing house in New York, because I had all of these contacts all over the world and I had directing experience, and it just seemed like it would be a good fit. I was like a little bit too experienced for the job. So I ended up leaving after like 8 months, I think, to go back to stage managing. I was going to take over the management of a touring dance company and manage their tours. And about 6 weeks into that, maybe even less time into that touring job, I got a call from a client that had worked with me at the dubbing house. And they said, hey, we really liked working with you. You're not there anymore. Would you be willing to take over one of our shows? It's a new show. We'd like to work on it with you. And I said, well, I'm not really working in voiceover right now. I'm doing this other thing. And they said, well, could you find a studio? And I said, sure, maybe. When do you need it by? And they said, 4 days from now, we're flying into New York.
Oh, okay.
So I found a studio in 4 days, thanks to lots of people being kind to me. And I literally had to sort of like interview to use the studio, because the person I'd been recommended to speak with was this wonderful man named Questar Welsh, who'd been the head engineer for Rugrats and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and all those great 80s cartoons. And he had a studio that he would rent to people. But I didn't have an engineer. So I was like, would you be my engineer? So basically I had to like ask this really incredibly famous man. I was like, could you be my engineer on this little show that I don't really know anything about? But hi, jazz hands. And and he was very kind, and he was like, yeah, kid, you seem nice. That was literally kind of how the conversation went. And I did that show with him in 2014. And then I got another show, and then I got another show, and then I got another show. And by 2016, it was apparent that my little company was actually going somewhere. And by 2017, I was the only person he was recording with because he couldn't take on any more work. I had too many shows. And then I started bringing on new engineers.
Huh.
And then in 2020, we had to pivot because of the pandemic, and he was considering retiring anyway. So he sold me his studio. Um, and then in 2020, it's also when I opened my office here in Lisbon because I was traveling back and forth for dance,
Okay.
actually. And since I had so many European clients, it actually became easier for me to direct from here in Europe. And so I was just going back and forth between the two studios. And then I chose to stay here more full time. So I'm talking to you from Portugal. And I still have my studio in New York, and I have the studio here. And now I have, gosh, it's been 10 years. I have uh, 4 engineers that I work with regularly, one primarily. And then sometimes I bring Questar back just because it's nice to have him around. And then I have 8 writers because we dub into English, Spanish, French, German, Finnish, Turkish, Portuguese, and Japanese.
Okay, the
Um,
resume is long.
yeah. And then there's myself. And then I have a couple of composers that we job in when we have um, time and the need. But yeah, that's us. That's what we're doing. So we're
That's
busy.
amazing.
Yeah.
Very
So
I
it's
cool.
I
yeah.
apologize. I didn't mean to ask your age. I just like you're in South Korea. You said like being in South Korea in high school or right after college. I was like that would be amazing. I would like to go to South
Yeah.
Korea. I was right after college. But yeah, that's amazing. So you've been a dancer and now you're a dancer, director, engineer, voice actor now.
Kind of, yeah. Like I primarily direct
Okay.
and engineer sometimes. The nice thing about sort of being where I am in my career is that I have other people that engineer
Mhm.
for me. I really can just focus on the directing because if I had to do both now, I would be exhausted because I jump from show to show all day long. Um, and and I also have different people editing for me because I might have a show that's based in Asia or a show that's based in Vancouver or a show that's based in here in Portugal. And so I'm directing across the time zones, but my team can work on their time zones, you know?
Okay.
So I'm the only one that has to be tired. But if I was having to like engineer and I would fall apart since I am jumping across multiple projects usually.
You're in Lisbon now.
Hmm.
That's in Portugal.
Yes.
Okay. And that's in Europe. Okay.
Yes.
It's been a long time since I've been in a geography class because we kind of talked about this ahead of time, like Portugal. I'm like, oh yeah, South America. She's not.
No, I'm in Europe. I'm on the side of Spain, like
Okay, okay.
west of Spain. Yeah.
You didn't know that, DeMarcus.
I know it now.
That's all that matters. But but yeah, you have a very impressive resume. When I was doing my research, I didn't even see anything about dance in there. And I helped out with our small dance team in college, so I feel like I'm
Yay!
tapped in on that world.
Nice,
But
nice.
but yeah, that is extremely impressive. That just adds another layer to all the cool stuff that you got going on. But Paula, at this point in the show, we like to uh, do our put you on segment, and that gives us an opportunity to let our listeners know of one thing in media like podcasting, books, TV, movies, anything in media that we found really enjoyable this or really fun recently that they want to put our listeners onto. And this segment is actually sponsored by MoviePass. DeMarcus, can you
Oh,
tell them about MoviePass, please?
Sure, sure. MoviePass is a subscription-based service that allows you to watch multiple movies in theaters for a monthly fee. That's multiple for one fee. So I know you used to going to the movies to pay in like, what, $20 for one movie. Pay the MoviePass $20, you get like 3 or 4 movies every month. Um, yeah, and I don't really know what more I can say about that. When you sign up, users typically receive a movie pass card in the mail. Takes maybe a week or something like that, and use it just like a debit card or credit card, anything like that in the theater, and it covers the cost of the movie ticket. They're not covering snacks yet, maybe one day, but today you get in the movies for free or for a prepaid service.
Mhm, mhm. So, Paula, I would like to extend it to you. Do you have anything that you want to put our listeners onto this week?
Oh gosh. Well, there's a show I'm directing that's coming up in the spring, which is Iyanu.
Okay, okay.
on,
Yes, yes.
on Cartoon Network and Max. So I gotta plug that just because I feel
Absolutely.
obligated
That's
to.
Do it, do
Um,
it.
but if it's just like good right now viewing, I'm kind of into Wild Cards, which is a CBC show,
okay.
kind of like police procedural, but with a lot of comedy and a really good slow burn love story in the middle. So if you just want some like really good brain candy with some honestly lovely acting, Wild Cards from CBC is pretty great.
Okay, okay, okay. What about you, DeMarcus? Did you see anything this week?
What have I watched this week? Well, the new Love Is Blind started.
I know
Uh,
I saw that.
so you already watched the first episode?
No, I didn't.
No. Oh.
I did not watch the first episode. I'm trying to wait so to accumulate before I watch them. I'm thinking about watching Love is Blind Germany because there was this viral moment where when they met, they did not like each other. Did you see that?
I heard about it.
Yes. When they met, they were just like, hi. And they were like hugging really awkwardly. So I may watch the Germany one and then watch season 8 of Love is Blind. But
There
yeah.
have been 8 seasons of that show. Oh Lord.
I remember watching the first season, like, oh, this is amazing, and now I'm like, I still got to see it, but I just it's just so overdone.
Mm.
Are you a
Okay.
big reality TV person, Paula?
Not really, no.
Or no?
No, I was actually on Celebrity Apprentice with
Okay.
one of the Baldwin brothers and a football player. And back when I was a performer in New York, when I had to eat, and
Yeah.
basically I was in an Airstream trailer downtown, like near Cooper Union, trying to sell printers out of the Airstream trailer, like get people to come off the street and buy printers.
Uh,
I can't remember. It was such a weird. Oh, Pierce Morgan was one of the contestants. I had to,
oh,
yeah, I just spent all day with the Baldwin brother whose name I can't remember, and the football player whose name I can't remember, though he was very nice, and
okay.
Pierce Morgan. And I remember Pierce Morgan because he paid me by handing me literally a roll of $100 bills with a rubber band around them. And I was like, this is not particularly the way I expected to be paid, but it was all non-union. It was like super, super sketchy.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
But what can you
Wow.
expect? So yeah, that was that was my experience with reality shows. And after that, I was like, I'm not gonna. This is so no, I'm not a particular. I haven't really liked the reality shows since The Real World, the original Real World, which aired when
Oh.
I was 92. Got
Mm.
the yeah. So I had just oh my God, I was just entering high school.
Mm.
It was like a big deal. It was a big
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah.
But
So you just watched the first season?
yeah, after that, I was like, it wasn't real after that. The first Real World really did feel like just some camera people trying to figure out what to do with these poor people who were wandering around New York trying to find themselves.
Mhm.
It really felt raw and just like you were a fly on the wall, kind of. And it wasn't all edited and pretty, and they had failures, and there weren't any manufactured fights. If people were fighting, it was because they were actually just fighting,
Yeah.
like the way you do with your roommates. Um, it felt like the real world. And then after that, it was pretty much downhill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Formulated.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, what you gonna put us on to?
Oh, me, I saw Captain America fights the president, and it
Team Brave
was
New World.
a Brave New World. And it was actually a really good movie. And I'm seeing a lot of people are up and down. Mostly I'm seeing a lot of videos that are white people and white um uh publications are saying it's a 5.10, it's not good. Everybody else is loving it. Everybody else is I loved it. I mean, I love all the Marvel movies. It's really in my top 5 or maybe even top 3. It
That
was a very, very, very good movie, and I don't know what these people are talking about. It was
high
extremely good.
praise.
Mm.
I think the funniest thing for me is that because I was reading the comments when they first made Sam Wilson. Captain America, and this what's happening in the real world now is exactly the story they wrote. Like as soon as Sam Wilson becomes Captain America, everybody hates him, or all the white people hate him, and they're like, "Oh, he's not my Captain America." It's like Bucky Barnes was right there, and it's like Barnes was a Russian spy.
Exactly. Exactly. He was a Russian spy
Uh,
who killed people. So
yep.
yeah, it's just crazy. All right,
Oh,
DeMarcus, do you have an activity for us today?
Oh, I always have an activity, and I'm very excited for the activity today. I worked
Uh-oh.
really um So for new listeners, for you, Paula, the way our games go, Demarcus comes up with the games. Demarcus judges the correct and wrong answers. He judges the winners and the losers. He's in complete control. So today's game is just a trivia game, and we're gonna call it Who That Is. What I'm going to do is I'm going to play a sound clip from a show, movie, uh,
oh
anime,
God.
something or rather.
Okay.
All y'all have to do is like guess whose voice that is.
Oh no.
Is
Okay.
this is the character, not the performer, correct?
Mm, it is the performer.
Oh
That's the
God.
answer that I want.
I
Uh,
don't
DeMarcus,
watch
you have to
television,
do
y'all, because I make it. So when I get free time, I read. So I'm feeling like this is gonna be rough. I'm
DeMarcus,
sorry,
you have to
y'all.
do the character. You can't do the act.
yeah, yeah. So well, some of these, the character like says their name or says someone's name. Well,
Okay.
I'll give points for character. I'll give a point for character. I'll give extra points if you can name the
Performer.
yes.
Okay.
All right.
All
Ah,
right.
four-letter word. All right,
All
here we go.
right. Well, I turned on sharing, and yeah, DeMarcus, this
Okay.
is going to be very interesting.
Mm,
I
It's,
know.
it's
Look,
fun.
I'm scared too. We always do these things, and they're usually skewered so that I will lose them and so that I can be embarrassed.
You
So
know,
really don't feel any type of way because he makes these to embarrass me because I used to beat him all the time at Yu-Gi-Oh!
that's not the
And
case.
this is his this is get back. So
okay.
so don't be
Oh
scared at all.
God.
No,
Oh God.
this what he just said is a lot of lies mixed with half truths.
Anyway, I don't want to lose my geek cred because I don't know these. I'm sorry, I just read a lot. If you want to talk about fantasy novels, I'm on it. But
And I'll give lots of hints. I'll give lots of hints. Okay,
okay.
just pull up my things here. I'm gonna have to share my sound. Mm-mm-mm. Share sound. All right. You guys may have to like look at yourselves for a second.
Okay. It's
All
definitely
right.
screen sharing.
Yeah. So we're gonna see your file names if they're
Yeah, like that's why, I got two screens. I got to do a
okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Cool beans.
All right, all right. Let's see. Games next. All right, are we ready? How we want to do it, Jerry? You just want to shout out the answer, or
We can do. I do one and Paula does one.
okay, great. I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 10.
I'm gonna say 7.
Okay.
I'll go 4.
All right, the number is 1. Paula, you going first.
Oh
Jerry.
God.
All right. Here is number 1. Just let me know if you can hear it.
You know, the thing about good food, it brings folks together from all walks of life. It warms them right up and it puts little smiles on their faces.
Oh God.
I can play it
Uh,
again. I can give
uh,
it.
It was a black guy, wasn't it?
I mean, absolutely.
well,
Okay.
it sounds like Terrence Howard, but I don't
That's
know.
correct. I don't even
Okay,
hear
great.
it's Terrence Howard.
Okay, great.
How did you do
What was that?
that?
What was that
See?
from?
The Princess and the Frog. Terrence Howard is
Oh,
James,
yeah.
Iyana's dad.
Oh
I've
my
actually,
God.
and sadly, I've not seen it because I don't watch cartoons. Like,
But you know these people and you know their
yeah,
voices.
I know the voices, yeah, but no, I don't watch. I don't.
And I tried to,
I just have to get away from cartoons, but I'm not making them. Like, I have to get.
yeah,
That's
I
so funny.
absolutely understand it.
Thank you.
Um, but yeah, I try to shoot people. I was like, oh, these are like voices that we definitely know because they're
Mm. Okay,
um
okay.
great. Jared, this was for you. And this is so funny because this is both of us have said this is our favorite show.
Superstition and the sword ruled. It was a time of darkness. It was a world of fear. It was the age of gargoyles.
Well, that's Gargoyles, and that was Keith David speaking.
Okay, see, easy peasy.
So
Famous last
No,
words.
Keith
Famous last
David.
words, Marcus. Famous last words.
You
yeah,
just gotta give it a warm up. This
we
next
not
one,
know Keith David.
I learned this person did this voice while I was creating this game,
Oh God.
but it's still a very distinct voice.
Pull the lever, Crunk. Wrong lever!
Huh?
Why do we even have that lever?
Who is
I know that one.
Oh, four-letter word.
You can say it. This is an adults podcast.
Why do we even have who is
I
that?
can give you the movie that'll.
Okay.
No. She won't know the movie. Let me give you a hint. She also played Catwoman when
that's
Adam
Halle
West
Berry?
was when Adam West was Batman.
Oh, Eartha Kitt.
Yes, that is correct. That was Eartha Kitt as Yzma
Yeah.
from this new groove.
Yes, I was okay. As soon as you I knew that.
You
Well,
knew
thank you
it.
for the hint.
You
Yeah,
knew
because
it.
I was like, why do I know her voice? Anyway, well, that's like half a point, like a point at. But
That's the full point. You got it. You got a hint. You got the answer, the full answer. Man,
thank you.
yeah, these are some pretty distinct voices. Like we know
Yeah,
from like other things, like her, like Eartha Kitt. I've heard her in a lot of other stuff.
yeah,
I was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
wait, that was her?
That was great.
All right. Number 4, Jerry. This was for you.
Uh-oh.
Look inside yourself, Simba. You are more than what you have become. You must take your place.
James Earl Jones.
Is correct. I was really on the fence about this one between doing the Darth Vader clip and
Yeah. Okay, this isn't so bad. This is
right. Fun and easy. Back to you. Number 5.
Okay.
Your pain is the breaking of the shell that encloses your understanding. It is the bitter potion by which the physician within you heals your sick self.
Oh, four-letter word. Sorry. I hate it when I know and I don't know.
Yeah, like if you had it not been a question, you'd been able to say it.
Yeah.
Mm.
I'm like Rolodexing every black in my head. I'm like, no, it's not her.
Let me see.
This is making me so mad.
She is a black actress.
Yeah,
Black
I
actress
know.
royalty.
Everything.
So I can give you the show.
Embarrassing.
It's from the Boondocks, and this person is both main characters.
Oh, I'm like really losing my black card right now. It's not Cree Summer. It is what main characters in the Boondocks? Oh my God, I should know.
Oh, can I give a hint?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
She was also in 227. And Ray, Boys in the Hood, Friday.
I'm really blanking, y'all. I'm really blanking. This is like me going up on lines. Just tell me I'm losing this one.
That one was Regina King.
Oh, fuck me. I know that.
You knew.
All right.
I knew that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we know all these ones. The next one is actually a little hard, Jared.
Okay.
Oh man.
This person has
I'm
played.
mad about that.
Now
There
you
are
know
plenty
how
of
I feel
questions left.
every
You can make a comeback. This person has played a lot of cartoon characters. He has voiced a lot of cartoon characters.
Okay.
I'm mad at Jimmy for shooting my friend. I'm mad at Nick for messing with Jimmy. I'm mad at myself for not telling somebody when I first heard about the gun. I'm mad at everyone.
Jaleel White.
No. That was Phil Lamar.
Oh, really?
Oh man.
Yeah.
Okay.
He is a really good voice
Yeah,
actor.
Yeah,
he's
he really
Static
is.
Shock. He's John
Yeah.
Stewart, Green Lantern, a bunch
Yeah.
of other stuff, like other minor characters.
Mhm.
Wow.
Right. This one is a newer one,
Oh.
but I think the voice is still gonna get you there, Paula.
No, well, I'm getting progressively less confident.
Not the cartoon. Okay.
This is the Belle Reeve Non-Human Interment Division. For over 50 years, only those at the uppermost levels of security clearance are aware of its existence.
As she goes Rolodexing again.
She is also in How to Get Away with Murder.
Mhm.
Oh, Viola Davis?
That is Viola Davis.
Okay. And what was that from?
That's the Creature Commandos. She is Amanda Waller.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
A little newer cartoon. All right,
My friend here,
Mhm.
my Cabo Verdean Portuguese friend is the Portuguese voice of that character.
Oh, that's
and then doing the dub. Yeah.
small world.
Yeah, it's really funny.
Oh.
Is their voice like just as deep?
Yeah, they have very similar vocal quality.
Yeah.
She also voices, like, she played the mom in Little Mermaid, and she was
Ooh.
in Mufasa, all the Portuguese dubs. Like, it's just really funny. Anyway, but
Nice. I have a question later about English dubs versus other languages.
Okay.
We're gonna wrap up the game soon. Okay, Jared, number 8. This
Okay.
was
Hi, my name's Susie. What's yours? Tommy. Hi, Tommy. Want me to show you our new house? But what about your sucker? Sucker?
Cree Summer.
that was Cree Summer.
Yeah, I was like, there's Cree. I knew he was gonna put Cree in there somewhere. There's Cree.
Yeah.
Yeah, have to.
Yeah.
I
Voice-
love her voice.
Yeah, she's amazeballs. She's amazing.
Love
Okay.
her.
Number 9, Paula. This is an easy one, I
Mm-mm.
think.
Power and ant can be a very volatile force, cousin. It will get the best of you eventually, on your plane or on ours.
This person is mainly an actor and is no longer with us.
Oh gosh. Any actor no longer with us.
He was in the Jesse Robinson movie.
I have Jesse,
It's always hard to get the names, though.
this is so embarrassing because I can see his face.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Really important actor. Did lots of stuff and then passed away. Very tragically of cancer. And I'm just tell me.
Okay, Chadwick Boseman.
Yes, I was like Black Panther, and like I was like, I know, and like there's a teacher teaching for my dance program here in March and here in Portugal, and she directed a show with him, and so there's all this footage of him that she sent when he was younger. And anyway, yes, and I was like, I know he died did great work, and then cancer, and then
Yeah.
I definitely give you half a point for that one. You knew who it was, and you just couldn't get the name out.
No, because I'm basically panicking. Anyway, your turn, Jared.
Yeah, the nerves.
Yeah.
This was I think one of his final roles with Marvel. He did the first season of What If, and he was the Black Panther in the What If series.
Yes, I love how you were like you didn't say Black Panther because that would have been too easy a giveaway. Anyway, all right, Jared.
The last one.
These are getting harder.
No, they're not.
In fact, I have an extensive list of complaints. They're my real family, and I love them just the way they are.
I can play it again. I can give hints.
Okay, this is from the Proud Family, right?
It's from the Proud Family, yes.
I've never seen the Proud Family.
You've never watched the Proud Family?
No. But I do know who this is. She is like a 38-year-old woman. She still looks like a child today. She's so beautiful. Um, she has a daughter. She has been a Black actress legend in my household. Um, God,
Not enough descriptors here, Jared.
huh?
I said these are not enough descriptors.
She,
38 with a daughter. I mean,
wait,
that's
wait.
a lot of people.
It's like a Kyle or Kyrie or
That was Kyla Pratt.
Kyla Pratt. Ugh,
Mm-hmm.
dang, I was close.
Like, well, you got all the descriptors. If I
Right.
got half a point for knowing, if I got half a point for knowing Chadwick Boseman died of cancer,
Absolutely.
then he gets a
I'm
point.
definitely giving both of you definitely have a half point, and this one's gonna have to end in a draw because I do not have any more voiceovers prepared. I definitely.
We actually ended in a draw after all. I thought I was like a good couple points down.
Oh, you were sticking with it. You were sticking with it.
Yeah. Well, I'm
No
thankful.
more than you think.
I'm thankful for my little points in that. But yeah, that was really fun, DeMarcus. Paula, there is a question I want to ask you that goes back to an episode that we had earlier this year.
Mhm.
And it has to do with the access that kids are getting now to this quality, amazing television versus the access that we had to this quality, amazing television. Like we had Arthur, we had the Magic School, we watched the Magic School Bus and Bill
Mhm.
Nye in schools, and now X-Men 97 is locked away on Disney Plus. New episodes of Adventure Time are locked away. Nickelodeon is now doing shows for YouTube TV.
Yeah.
So I just want to know, like, how can we still make, quality, good television like we had, because we had television like, they would do the show and then there'd be a little segment on recycling with Captain Planet or whatever.
Yeah.
So is there anything that we can do or that you are doing to make sure that, kids who don't have access or don't have resources are still getting this content?
Oh gosh, the amount of conversations I've had with my content buddies. There's a lot of really great children's content being made. There's also a lot of schlock. There's just a lot of crap. And originally, oh God, a couple of things happened at once that made the children's content space sort of go haywire. First, it was YouTube allowing the monetization of children's content. So everyone and their uncle started streaming whatever. The quality varied wildly. YouTube, like unboxing videos, toy play videos, random like 3D videos with somebody singing half a song and standing on their head were getting millions of views. And of course, the person making those would then get millions of dollars worth of ad spend. So anyone and their uncle started making children's content, and it changed the way broadcasters were positioning their children's content. So things like Sesame Street, 3-2-1 Contact, Bill Nye the Science Guy, those shows suddenly weren't making the kind of visible money that short form, kind of random ass stuff was on YouTube. Add into that the number of streaming services that started to appear, like Netflix originally, and then once Netflix blew up, everyone and their uncle started to create their own, which has gotten more and more silly since the pandemic. And then suddenly you had this glut of children's content. It was hard to just figure out what was working and what wasn't. Then the laws were passed that made it impossible to monetize on YouTube. You couldn't monetize children's content. So then all the broadcasters and streamers and people and content creators who've been making things for YouTube in order to make money had to pivot because they couldn't use YouTube to make money in the same way anymore. But they had like hundreds of episodes of just schlock out there. So they packaged the schlock into longer episodes, which then ended up on the streamers. It just ended up being this like just a big cluster screw, frankly.
Yeah.
And the end result was that they had to make their money some way. So once Sesame Street got purchased by HBO, it was all over.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not so much that those of us making content can really affect it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the gatekeepers that are broadcasters and streamers who are choosing who gets to see it, because their bottom line is to make money, not to educate children. And it makes me terribly sad, because sometimes I'll work on something absolutely beautiful that nobody ever sees, because the streamer, the broadcaster, whoever, doesn't feel that it will make them any money. There's a lot of really good stuff being made. You just don't see it.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the reason I opened my company here in Europe is that under the European co-system way of funding a project, you're not as beholden to investors as you are under the North American system.
Mm.
So it might take 8 countries working together and getting tax rebates from their particular home countries, and then just hoping that it all works out, because you really do, you're just kind of on the hook for your portion of the project until you get your rebates. You make the show, you have an investor who's on board, they give you some money up front.
Mm.
You make the show knowing that a portion of it is going to be paid back by the government, and then you pay the investor back once the show is done, because once you make the show, prove to your government that you did what you said you would, that you stayed within budget, you get your portion back, and then you pay the investor back immediately. So there's less risk capital, basically. And then you have a show that you can sell. And it's your job to just convince people that they want to buy your show. So you've got a completed show that you're trying to get out into the world. Whereas in the North American system, it's often an investor who's heavily involved in the entire process the whole time. And they will say, no, 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 these kids can't say this. No, 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 this story can't be told. No, 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 you have to make this character white instead of black, because they're the money. They're literally the money. Mm-hmm. If you don't have them, you don't have a show. And the same happens with broadcasters. You make the show in the US and you really have to like beg, borrow, and steal your way into distribution. Whereas here in Europe, you make a deal with a distributor whose only job is to sell your show for you. Yeah, mm-hmm. But it's because you have a show that's completed and is your creation the way you envisioned it. And it might not have any overarching massive message, but it's coherent, and it's clear that you made something that was your own, kind of. It's like their ownership of it is very different. So there's a lot of really quality stuff being made in Europe that doesn't make it to the US. Like the level of show here is just higher. Canada is also very good about this, but a lot of Canadian shows don't make it to the US. They come to Europe because they're usually Canadian-French co-productions between Canada and France. And they'll be localized in Europe for the European market, but not shown in the US. I worked on Caillou for 5 years. Caillou is sort of widely panned in the US. In Europe, it's a different show. It's actually a different show, different scripts, different storylines. Caillou's best friend has 2 moms. He gets scolded, he gets grounded. Like, it's a different show. Yeah.
I was gonna say Caillou's menace in the US.
Yeah. Different scripts, everything. Yeah.
So that boy isn't running everything, not getting in trouble.
No, completely different show. And I directed the European version. I directed the English, Spanish, French, German, Finnish, Turkish, Portuguese, and Japanese cast of that show. And we had completely different scripts, different casts, different show.
Wow.
Because the European market wants different things.
Yeah.
The kind of quality television we grew up with is still being made here. It's not being made in the US. Or it's being made in Canada and just doesn't come across the border. North American, I can't say, the US market wants money.
Yeah.
everybody else wants to educate kids. It's a very different thing. Yeah.
Watch these shows in that are being made in Canada, Europe, in these other countries? Do I just get like an illegal VPN, or is there?
Yeah. I mean, there are VPNs that aren't so illegal, but yeah, you can get a VPN. If you speak a foreign language, sometimes the dubs are even better than the originals. There's a show called Nate is Late.
Okay.
Sempre Atrasado. It's Sempre Atrasado here in Portugal. And I watched the Portuguese version of it over the Canadian version always. Because I just love what the Portuguese dub cast does. They make different choices and they're just hysterical. Nate is Late is great. It's a Canadian show, but I actually prefer watching it in Portuguese than I do in English, just because of the choices that the casting director in Portugal made. 16 Hudson is another Canadian show that I think is actually on PBS now. Pretty sure 16 Hudson is great. Mind you, these are like younger shows because that's what I direct, mostly preschool to tween. Iyanu is a bit of an outlier in that it's more of a teen show. Most of my stuff is preschool to tween, and then I direct a lot of teen podcasts. That's where I'm known for doing like teen work, but narrative podcasts. So you can, some of them are on, oh, well, you know what? I don't know if they're on US YouTube. They're on European YouTube. The joys of being in the European Union, because I can go watch any of these European cartoons on YouTube, but I don't know if you'll be able to see them. Billy TV, BILLI.TV is a place where you can see stuff from all around the world. Sflix.to is another place. I feel really bad being like, pirate the shit, but pirate the shit. If you can't see a European cartoon in the US, look for it.
Look for it.
Look for it, yeah. 16 Hudson is great. That's a Canadian show. What's another show that's actually really great? The rest of that I quite like. I'm running through, because again, I don't watch a lot, but there are some shows where I'll put my stuff and watch it. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna look.
But yeah, European shows are really great. I know that Black Mirror was European first, and then they brought it over. Ghost, that is now aired on NBC, was European first, then they brought it over. The Accused, which is a great anthology courtroom series, was European first, then they brought it over. So,
High Potential was which is, I think was called Very High Potential or something in French. It was a French show. That was great. I'm trying to think of any other. There's a show it's actually called Auga Seca.
Okay.
Not Agua Seca, Auga Seca. And it's a Spanish Portuguese co-production. They also speak English and they also speak French. Like it just sort of cycles through languages. It's a brilliant show, especially first season, just sort of jaw-droppingly good. What is something else I've seen that was if you like K-dramas,
love them.
It's actually from the early 2000s. It's called Iris. Iris was brilliant. So good. I was glued to Iris when I was living in South Korea. That show was amazeballs. It's hard to find now.
We can find it.
It was it was like Lee Byung-hun when he was younger, like one of his like really big series. That show was great. And it's not your regular K-drama. It does have a love story in it, but it's like it's kind of like Mission Impossible meets all the good K-drama love stories meets like an espionage series meets like it's like all the good things, like all the good things.
Yeah, I just saw Day of the Jackal, so I'm like itching to get into another something.
Yeah, like Iris is great. I'm trying to think because I do just Do you like Turkish dramas?
I don't think I've ever seen a Turkish show, to my knowledge.
Okay.
Lay it on me.
Okay, Turkish dramas, man. Oh gosh, now I'm blanking on it. It was so good. It's called Black and White Love in English. That's not, you actually have to look it up in Turkish or
I'm afraid of Google search.
yeah, I can tell you real quick. The acting on that show is just 10 different kinds of phenomenal. The two leads have worked with each other a lot.
Okay.
Ibrahim Shalakol and Ishaq, I'm saying their names horribly, but they are, doesn't matter what they're in together, they're stupidly good. Okay, to all the Turkish people listening, my apologies for my pronunciation of this, but it's Siyah Beyaz Aşk, Price of Passion, kind of. Yeah, that show, man, it's excellent.
Yeah,
dark. It's quite dark, as are lots of Turkish dramas. It's about a doctor. The quick synopsis. Also, Turkish dramas go on for like 162 episodes, so just be prepared. It goes on for a while. But the doctor, very famous doctor, she gets a request to go in an ambulance to help an accident on the road. It's not usually what she does. She's a famous surgeon, but she gets this request. The person who's supposed to go is ill that day, and so she takes over for the other doctor. She gets to what is supposed to be the accident. It's not actually an accident. It's this building out in the middle of nowhere, and there's a man who's been shot, and she's basically told, unless you fix him, we will kill you. And they lock her in the barn, and she's only allowed out when she's treating him. And that's how the story begins. And that's all I'm gonna say.
Okay. That's all you need.
And it gets crazier after that. It just gets progressively more Byzantine and Labyrinthine, and
Let's
Siyah space Bayaz space ASK.
Okay.
Yeah.
I am I'm hooked already. So
right. And it's the
list.
Yes.
Different question for you. So since you work between directing all these different kinds of casts, talk to us about like the process of like directing something and getting it recorded in one language and then transferring it over to another. Is there a lot of like, oh, we have to change this bit of the script because this doesn't make sense in this language, or or maybe like the actors have their own opinions about how things should go?
So I'll direct what's called the prelay, or the natural pause of the show. So I'll direct it with the original cast. I prefer to ensemble direct. Some voiceover directors like to work with everyone and separately and really like shape the show. I actually like actors to be actors. Not that the other kind of director doesn't, but I really like actors to be able to interact with each other.
When you say everyone's like in the same room, like staring at each other in the face and whatnot. Okay.
Well, not so much in the same room. That's not particularly necessary, but they are all on the same call, basically. So they can interact with each other. And so I sort of shaped the scene that way rather than shaping every line. And I know from the storyboards or from my conversations with the showrunner that we might need a faster version of this, a shorter version of it, an angrier version. So I'll sort of coach the group into variations on that theme, whatever the scene calls for. We'll do that through the whole show.
Okay.
It goes off, it gets animated, it comes back to me for ADR. That's when we put in the things like, if the script said the character falls down the stairs, we don't know how many steps they're going to hit. We don't know what the impacts are going to be. So once we have the picture back, I go in and I time code all of the places where there's action that needs to be voiced. And I bring the actors back in individually, and we go to, time code 2418, and the character goes, yeah. And we put that in while watching. Then it goes back to the animation team, rinse and repeat till everything's, where we want it. Then if the show does well, and this is the dirty secret about cartoons only make money from the ancillary sales, from merchandising,
I knew
from
that.
the backpacks, the t-shirts,
The
the
toys.
coloring books, the toys, right? So in order to make as much money as you can from a show, you have to put it in as many markets as possible. That's what licensing deals are for. Yeah. So your show does well in whatever the original language was. Everyone in Timbuktu loves it. Okay, so now we're going to try to get it into Paris, London, Tokyo, and Argentina. Great. So comes back to me and they say, hey, we need to cast in these 5 other languages. And so I cast it again in those 5 other languages. I have a roster of about 200 artists that I work with fairly regularly. Well, there are about 100 that I work with more regularly, and then others that I sort of job in when I need. So I actually have a team, like teams of VO artists in the different languages that I quite like working with. They're all on my internal roster. And then when I can't find something I need, I go wider and do actual casting calls. But I generally do my internal casting calls before I go out to the rest of the world. So I'll cast the show. Producers are happy with all the voices. Great. While I'm casting the show, my writers are also doing what's called flap adaptation. So we have the original picture. Yeah. And so we can't change the animation. The animation is millions of dollars to make. Yeah.
Right.
So we do a translation of the script, and then we actually have to watch the mouth movement to make it fit. So if my original show was in Korean and the character said, "안녕하세요, which is hello, how are you? 안녕하세요, 어떻게 지냈어요? It's 12 syllables, basically. Hello, how are you is 5. so then we have to fill that space with, hey, dude, what's up? How you doing today, my friend? To say the same thing, but fill all of the same space. Yeah. Which is why sometimes you see like the subtitles or something and it doesn't match what you're hearing. It's because we've had to make the mouth movement work with what we're saying now. So
I was just watching Sakamoto Days, and
that's a really good example of where they're like, okay, we just gotta make this fit. Yeah. So we do that across all of the languages, and you run into cultural things that just don't work. Like I was directing an episode of this show where they were talking about, the whole show was about, it was really funny. The whole show was one kid, this particular episode was one kid meeting their new neighbor who was from Spain. And so the character only spoke Spanish. Great. Okay. One character speaks English. The show is in English. The character speaks Spanish. Then they asked me to do the Spanish dub. And so I was like, so what language does the neighbor speak? I was like, no, really, I just pick a language. What would you like the neighbor to speak? And so we ended up just flipping it. So the neighbor spoke English. But that meant changing all of the references too. So instead of talking about Cinco de Mayo or that kind of thing, actually it was because it wasn't Spain, because she was talking about Cinco de Mayo. So it was Latin America. But we changed it to the 4th of July. But then that, like, we had to make it work for sort of like the images we were seeing too, because, it was a lot, actually. It ended up being much more complex than the producers had conceived of, because they'd written it for an American audience, and then the show got popular and they made it for the Spanish audience, and then realized that all of their references had to be flipped around.
So in that situation, like, you're not redoing the animation still? Like, I imagine you're seeing Cinco de Mayo references when they're talking about Cinco de Mayo.
Yes, these producers actually, to their credit, they tried to make their visual references a little bit more general.
Gotcha. Okay.
So we were able to kind of like get away with stuff. But I've had shows where I'm like, you guys are either going to have to just reanimate, or we have to do some really weird mental gymnastics to make this work. And sometimes we had to like just fudge it a little to make the references still fit. But But yeah, it can be really hard. It can actually be really hard. And I have a wonderful team of writers who will call me and just be like, I don't know. Like, how do I make this work? Yeah, we don't have this holiday in Finland, like that kind of like, yeah, that's true. How do we make this work? And we can get very creative, and sometimes it gets really silly, but it's the only way you just have to sort of make it work. So that's what we do. Then we bring the cast in, the new cast, and dub each character across the whole show. And then it goes off to the next market, and there you go.
Yeah.
A really successful animated show is a lot of work.
Really successful animated show is a lot of work. Getting animation takes 2-3 years, a season, really. So once you're making it, you're on your way. But it's common for me I will direct the prelay of a show in 2021, and nobody sees it till 2023 because it takes that long for it to go back and forth and designed. And yeah, it's years. I get contracted for years for projects. So
nice. And so you finished it in 2021. By the time we see it in 2023, you're like on to the next show. And you're like,
well,
I did that.
well, I'm usually onto a different phase of the same show while also being on to the next show. So my team also does a lot of sound design. And so I just keep seeing the show basically until it goes out into the world, but different parts of it. So I'll direct the prelay, and then the ADR, and then the design, and then last looks is where everyone's like, oh God, did we do this right? Are we comfortable with it? And then they usually come back to me for cast lists and credits. And like, I'll just be working on something for a long time. Yeah. And it's on a rolling basis as we finish episodes and get batches delivered. And then I'm starting on the next thing along the way. And you hope that a show does well and you can keep working with the same cast for an extended period of time, because it's that longevity is nice.
Job security.
Yeah. Job security is nice, but it's also just the work of getting a new show up and running is actually really hard. It's really hard. It's a lot of cooks to please, a lot of cooks in the kitchen, a lot of people to please, a lot of figuring out what casts work together, because it's common to have to recast things, unfortunately. And so you do have to it's those first like 6 months of a project are just a little bit like being on the front of a speeding bus. So you try not to do that multiple times right on top of each other, because it can be really exhausting. So it's nice to get a show where everyone's really firing on all cylinders and you're working together well, and to stay with it as long as you can.
Yeah.
So how many languages do you speak?
I really only speak I speak English, obviously. I speak Portuguese at like a B2 level. I speak conversational Korean. I can get by in Spanish, mostly because of the Portuguese, and it gets all mixed up and smushed together. I have a very Argentine accent when I speak Spanish because I lived there 15 years ago. Briefly. I can speak desperation, like get on and off on the bus, buy bread, that kind of thing, in Italian, German, Russian, and French. And that's about it. Okay. Yeah. So when I'm working with my adaptation team, it's very much that they are bilingual and they're being kind and speaking to me in English. When I'm directing the shows, and this is where people get very confused because they're like, how many languages do you speak? When I'm directing the shows, because I'm familiar with the linguistic structures of the languages, because of adapting them and working with the actual language as far as how it works with the animation, I will often make suggestions to the artist. Oh, the way we adapted this doesn't work. Can you add XYZ word, or can you change this to the past tense because that will fit better and it will still make sense? And I'll give the word I want or give the conjugation I want. And the artists are always like, are you sure you don't speak this language? I'm like, structurally, yes, I get it. And I speak enough to make myself understood.
Right.
But do not put me in a meeting. Do not ask me to save your grandmama if she's having a heart attack on the street. Like, no. I can't talk about politics. I can direct this session. It's very like
Very specific.
Very specific linguistic knowledge. And it very much is just the linguistic knowledge, not the language itself. So yeah, I feel a little bit like an idiot savant sometimes where I'm like, yeah, just put this word in. And then everyone in the call is like, how did you know that? Because I've been doing it since God was an infant, that's all. Yeah.
I love it. That's crazy. And I'm struggling to learn Spanish every day.
It's really, whenever people talk about learning languages, it's such an interesting thing. I speak a lot of English during my work day, and then I have to go out into the street in Portugal, and it takes me a half an hour for my brain to switch over. And I sound like a 5-year-old for like the first half hour because they exist in different places in my head, the two languages, and my personality is different in the two languages. So it really is just practice. It's just a muscle. It's just muscle memory. And unless you do it every day and use it every day, it goes away. When I'm back in the US and I come back to Portugal, it literally takes me like a week to not sound just dumb. So it's.
And that's the part of language learning I always have a hard time getting over. So I'll get to a point where I have like a few words under my belt and I'm like, I sound like I'm 6 and I'm asking for a juicy joke.
Yeah, you really like, sometimes I'll be in situations where I'm like, I'm sorry, I know my grammar is just awful right now, but can everyone understand what I'm saying? Like when I teach a class, it can be really hard, especially if I'm having to switch back and forth. If I'm in a class where it's both English speakers and Portuguese speakers, which is very common here, I'm switching back and forth. And the first like half an hour of the class, I'm just in a full body sweat, like trying to, it's like, oh God. And then it starts to get easier as my brain sort of remembers. Yeah. But it really is just a muscle. It's just a muscle.
Okay.
So give yourself the time to work the muscle out. It's just like weight training. It really is. Yeah.
Paula, you have a lot of experience in voice acting, like at least a decade. At least a decade. So what are some of the most significant changes that you have seen in the industry? And where do you see the industry going in the future?
Right. I'm hoping the fact that my stomach is growling is not being picked up by my mic.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's all right. Okay. So a big thing is the remote way that we all record now. For a long, long time, you went into a studio, there were a million executives on the other side of the glass. It was a very personal thing. Like even with my company up until about 2018, everything was in my studio. Like you came to the studio in Lower Manhattan and you did everything there. I did have some remote performers, but not many. Pandemic forced us to go pretty fully remote, which was great in some ways because it allowed me to expand my roster. Because there were lovely actors that I'd always wanted to work with, but I wanted them in my studio. And then once I realized I don't really have to be that slavishly attached to them coming to my studio, it allowed me to expand my roster. And I actually really like that. I like that I can now cast anyone pretty much anywhere and work with them anywhere. Some of it's great. Some of it's not. It does make sometimes my editing work harder. I do have to do, I don't know if all studios do this. I prefer it. I do a lot of prep before the show starts so that I'm certain that the audio I'm getting from the actors and the audio I'm streaming to my team is good. And so sometimes that means renting equipment for the artist and sending it. Sometimes that means helping them build a home studio. Sometimes that means I do lots of checks. Like I will get on multiple calls with multiple studios prior to actually recording before the producers are there, before there are any execs, because I want to make sure that what I'm hearing in their space is of a quality that I want my name attached to. Yeah. So it's discovering that, and this actually happened, it's discovering that the mosque near the actor's house can be picked up on the mic. So knowing that we can't record at 1 at sundown at the different times at the mosque, mosques. So, it's that kind of stuff I have to plan for. So in that way, it's harder. But in other ways, it's opened up doors and and my ability to reach voiceover artists that I wouldn't otherwise have access to. So it's a double-edged sword. As far as what's happening in the industry right now, it's in a lot of flux because lots of people want to use AI, which is like nails on the chalkboard of my soul. And in an explainer video on YouTube, you can get away with AI. An hour long, hour and a half long film, the uncanny valleyness of an AI voice becomes very apparent. Your body actually just starts to do this.
Yeah.
And so whenever I have people asking me, well, can't you use AI for this dubbing? I'm like, we could use AI for that dubbing for about 2.5 minutes. And then people will reflexively turn it off because it actually isn't human enough yet. It isn't yet. And whether you get it cognitively immediately, your body responds. And so you get tenser and tenser and tenser. I know what AI is missing, but I'm not going to say what AI is missing because I don't want AI to fix it. So sorry, AI people, I'm not going to tell you why it's not working. But anybody who works in sound knows what is missing, the key element.
The human being.
Well, the human being, but it's actually like a deeper, it's really interesting. It's very cool, but most AI people are technicians. They're not sound people. And so they're missing the key thing that I'm not going to say. Anyway, so
keep it a secret forever. Don't ever tell him.
No, we're keeping that. Like you talk to any sound person, we're all like, oh yeah, AI doesn't work because XYZ. We all say it. Not going to tell you. Not going to tell you, AI people. So, so there's a movement towards that. It's that thing of what is it? There's a wonderful saying about all things AI, all things sort of generative AI, where they want the expertise without having you to pay for it, having to pay you for it. Yeah. So they want the outcome without having paid for what created that outcome. All the skill, none of the expense. Yeah. So that's a thing that's slowly trying to make its way into the voiceover world. And I just keep fighting it. I don't allow my projects, any audio from my projects can't be used in AI. It's in all my contracts. Any actor who voices something, their voices can't be used for AI. It can't be used beyond the project itself. Even if it's a full buyout, the full buyout doesn't include AI. Like, I'm like, you can use it for everything but this. You know, you've paid the buyout, but this is where we draw the line. So the industry is going towards that. And I think it's not going to work the way people want it to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm curious to see what happens in the future. I'm curious to see.
Yeah.
I'm curious.
Yeah, that is going to be interesting. Like, especially this year, you get them doing crazy things with AI every day. So
yeah.
And where it's come so fast. Like it's only here since like 2 years now. So
yeah. No, I definitely have moments where I'm like, am I going to have a job in 5 years?
Yeah.
Am I like, literally, am I going to have a job? I mean, am I going to have a job in 2 years, frankly? Because the pushback against AI has to come from the consumer. It can't come from us that make stuff. And if consumers are willing to have subpar audio, all I can do is sort of go, okay, well, yeah.
Which has never been, at least for me, like whenever, you have a great video, the audio scratches one time, turn it off.
Yeah.
I mean, for some people, yeah, but then you see all the stuff on YouTube and half of it, you're like, and that stuff has millions of views. So, I can only hope that people are discerning, but not everyone is.
Just hope YouTube expectations on YouTube.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So Paula, I have one final question before we move into our quick fire question segment. I just want to know, what were some of the challenges you had with bringing Iyanu to the screen? Because you are doing a fully African superhero, or I'm guessing superhero from the trailers. I know you spoke about what the um, executives want to see and how they
Mhm.
are. I just want to know that how did you how or if you had to fight, how hard you had to fight to get your unique vision across and get it funded and everything.
Well, I am for Iyanu, I am the casting director and the voiceover director and the sound design, kind of the
Mm,
audio producer. I have a sound design team working under me. Um, Primarily the wonderful Roger Middenway, whose work is excellent. But Roy Coupe, the series creator of both the Iyanu graphic novel comic book series and the show, was the person responsible for getting this past everybody.
okay.
He he's amazing, amazing. Like I cannot say enough good things about that man. He's exactly the kind of showrunner you want as a voiceover director. Super collaborative, really communicative, really clear about what he wants. Um, the show was really hard to make because first it was finding all the artists I needed. I had a lot of auditions. I think it was 1,600 people auditioned for originally 8 roles. And it was just a lot to get through. And then Nigeria, where most of the actors were based, doesn't have the strongest infrastructure as far as internet and that sort of things goes, and electricity in some places. So it was renting generators, it was finding studios, it was teaching people how to use their equipment. It was just a lot of upkeep that I hadn't expected to have to do just to get the show off the ground. And then it was a Cartoon Network, Max. Lion Forge is the primary producer of it. Lion Forge has been wonderful about really championing it and keeping it intact. And it was the last of the shows on Max's roster just before the Warner Brothers merger.
Yeah.
And so that merger was quite fraught. It was quite difficult. And so we had different producers, different managing directors, all this stuff constantly. And so it was every time a new producer came on, they wanted to sort of put their stamp on it. And so the creative would change, and like it just got really hard to know who we were trying to please because the people up top were different. And kudos to Roy for sticking to his guns and just sort of maintaining the course. I was shielded from a lot of that by him. Yeah. And then once things sort of settled down and the team at Lion Forge and the team at WBD Max got ironed out, things got a lot easier. But there was a real period of just like, I don't know who these notes are going to. I don't know who's giving me notes. I don't know what this is. Oh, you want to cast that? Okay. Oh, there's a new character. I didn't know that, like where it was really just like, but it was because so many people were changing and so many decisions were having to be made sort of on the fly. Not all shows are like that. It just happened to be that we were caught in the middle of a really large merger with a lot of moving pieces. So I can't really speak to the process of getting it off the ground because I was brought in after it was already greenlit.
Oh, nice.
And the project was difficult only because the top brass kept changing. And it sort of fell to Roy and all of his fabulousness to keep it going. Actually, Roy and Brandon Easton, who was the head writer, they really like I can't imagine they went through because so many changes, so many upper management changes kept happening. And they had to really sort of dig in, I think, and make sure it stayed the course. Roy and I had lots of really, really interesting discussions about keeping the show Nigerian. It is an all African cast. What's that?
They wanted to change it?
Not so much change it in that we didn't ask anyone to make their accent more palatable for an English speaking audience. Yeah. And there are ways that phrases are said, like the emphasis is on slightly different syllables in Nigerian English, in Nigerian English than American or Canadian English. And so there were moments where I would get notes where, why is this person saying it that way? Like, well, in Nigerian English, you would put the emphasis here. You wouldn't put it here.
Right.
And sometimes I would direct an episode or direct a scene, and then I would say, okay, everyone do your American read. There was this kind of running joke, and they would shift where the emphasis was for everything. And after about the 4th or 5th episode, I started to be like, oh my God. Every time I heard the American read, because it sort of stripped the show of its energy a little bit. It was so middle American and so very exactly what you hear every Saturday morning.
Yeah.
You know? And I was like, wow, it just lost all of its power.
Yeah.
It was like getting cut off at the knees, but I had to have that version because sometimes the execs would be like, we literally cannot understand what's going on unless you change what's happening here. So we had to sometimes lose the battle to win the war, but far less than I expected, to their credit, far less than I expected. There were a couple of funny times when a character would speak in Yoruba and I'd get a note, can't understand this. I'm like, you aren't supposed to. They're not speaking English. You know?
Good. Get it right.
Yeah, like they're speaking Igbo right now. Of course you can't understand it. So yeah, those were, I think I got less pushback than I could have, but it was largely because Roy was so good about negotiating which things to fight for and which things to let go. And occasionally he and I would disagree really wholeheartedly. And we would have to sort of duke it out because I was really passionate about the characters and making sure their arc was a certain way and that we played their full story. And he knew what was going on behind the scenes. And so he'd sometimes have to say, no, we're going to have to let that subtext go. We're going to have to let that go, Paula, you know? And other times he'd say, okay, yeah, I'm willing to fight for that. Let's fight for that. So the show was hard to make, but it was hard to make from a logistics standpoint. It was just a really big show with a lot of people. The cast was in Nigeria, London, the US, Portugal, Canada, and France.
Mm-hmm.
And they were in the US, they were in New York, Missouri, Los Angeles. In Canada, they were in Vancouver, Ottawa, Toronto. Like the number of time zones sometimes that I'd have to get so I could ensemble record could be really like, okay, some people are up really late, some people are up really early, some people are, you know, just logistically it was hard. So when it comes to getting it made, that would be a question for Roy, not for me, because he started this journey like 10, 12 years ago when he started publishing the graphic novels and has been trying to get it made for years and years and years. Like I have so much respect for his journey. He really believed in it. He really grew it into something awesome, and stuck to his guns. And here we are.
Nice. Well, we cannot wait to see it. I know that we're going to be glued to our televisions when it's on. All right, you passed the interview segment. Now we're just going to ask you 17 quick fire questions.
17, okay.
No. You can only you can answer because I definitely know you're hungry. I'm so sorry to take you so long.
It's just it's 9:30 at night here, and I forgot to eat dinner because I was editing. Okay. So I was like, oh gosh, I got this meeting, and oh god. Yeah, so.
But the good thing about this quick fire is you can only answer yes or no, or you know the answers that you know we want to give you, or that we give you.
Okay.
Now you can go deeper into the answer, but if you don't want to, I guess that's okay.
Okay.
And
Wow, laying on the guilt trip already. Good for you. Throwing it down. Okay, excellent. Nicely done.
and if you don't know the people in the question, you could just say skip and we'll go to the next one, okay?
Oh God. Oh God. Okay.
All right, so number one, what
Mhm.
superpower would you have if you could have any superpower?
Any superpower? Mm. The ability to solve people's the ability to augment people's sense of self-worth with a hug.
Ooh,
Oh,
that's a good one.
yeah,
We have never heard that question answered that way.
yeah,
Well, okay.
yeah. Yeah, we usually get a lot of men in here. They're like super strength.
Super speed.
No,
Speed.
I want people to feel better about themselves after having been in my
Oh,
presence, basically.
that
Yeah.
is great. That is great.
Well, thank you.
Okay, Professor X or Magneto? Whose side are you on?
Oh, Magneto. Sorry.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. Favorite dance scene in a movie?
Oh. Um. Okay. Well, because I mean the easy answer is the finale of Dirty Dancing. Duh.
Okay.
But anything Kenny Ortega touches is brilliant. But there is a dance film called Amelia. I think I'm saying that correctly. Yes. By La 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 Human Steps. That's pretty freaking brilliant. And if you can find the fully recorded version of The Statement by Crystal Pite, that's also brilliant.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. I hope I'm saying Crystal's name right. Is it Crystal Pite or Crystal Pizza? I can never remember. I think it's Crystal Pite. Anyway, go ahead.
Okay. Favorite dancer to watch or favorite dance productions to watch? Michael
Favorite.
Jackson or Bob
Oh,
Fosse?
oh, because I wasn't gonna say either of them.
I know. I gave you two options. Michael.
Okay. I love watching Michael dance. I
Yes.
love anything choreographed by Fosse. Like Rich Man's Frug.
Oh my God.
Dude, Sweet Charity, like what? But if I had to choose a right now performer, it's Will West every day of the week and twice on Sunday.
Okay. I gotta look him up. Werewolf or vampire? Which one would you be?
This is I think I'm a little closer to the land farm girl, so I go werewolf.
Okay.
Giving out hugs and changing how you feel about yourself.
Yeah.
Star Trek or Star Wars?
Oh, Star Trek.
Yes. Yeah.
Star Trek any day of the week and twice on Sunday. Yeah.
Yes. Living single or Martin?
Living single.
AKA
Friends before Friends took everything. Yes, living single.
We don't talk about the other show.
Yeah.
I don't know if you watched the Avatar. Did you watch the Avatar?
Not the big things.
I've seen scenes, but I've never watched the full series. Again, because I can't do it. Like, also, I get really annoyed. I get really annoyed when I'm watching anything visual with sound. When there's something like a character sits down on a couch and you hear the couch make a noise, but it's a leather couch sound, and what you're seeing is a cloth couch. Or a door closes and it's the wrong type of locking mechanism for what I'm seeing on screen. Like, I get it's actually hard for me to watch television.
That's pretty detailed.
Yeah, it's actually hard.
Does that happen often?
I mean, every program has gaps.
Uh,
Sometimes with animation, folks can be lazy, and I get really annoyed. Or like if there's a series, like this was something that Iyanu, the team at Iyanu, got really. They've been very patient with me because I'm like, no, that's a closed mouth react. That's an open mouth one. No, that's an inhalation, not an exhalation. Like, and I think it's because of my dance career, I'm really attuned to what bodies are doing in space. And so when I see a react that isn't reflected in the body language, it's like, and the same thing happens with sort of extraneous sound. I'm very aware of it.
Okay.
So yes, not that it has anything to do with Avatar, but it's part of the reason I don't watch lots of cartoons is I get annoyed. 4 episodes in, usually, where I'm like, could you have just fixed that? It's a little thing. I get annoyed. I actually just get like slightly enraged.
Okay. Fair. As a podcast producer, on a scale of 1 to 10, how is this podcast?
Oh, this is lovely. I produce narrative podcasts, not what I call talking head podcasts. So it's a different world altogether. But I would give this a solid 9.5. Just because y'all are lovely. I'm not giving it a 10 because all of the questions made me seem like I have no clue. But yes, a solid 9.5.
Okay. That's I thought we were a 6 or something.
No. Y'all are lovely.
Favorite kids TV show when you were a child?
Oh, Reading Rainbow.
Oh, Lamar Burton.
Oh gosh, Lamar was my man. Lamar was my man. Yes.
What was your last concert?
What was my last concert? Sigur Rós at Madison Square Garden.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What is the best kids TV show to watch for an adult?
Oh. Well, Bluey, again, I like Sempre Atrasado. Nate is late. What is another one that I quite like?
Bluey is so good.
Yeah. Oh. Another kids show that's fun. I mean, I don't know if Blossom was actually a kids show, but Blossom was one of those shows that I don't feel got quite enough love. But it was a show where the whole family could watch it, and it just was really great, and it's still really relevant. Like I watched a rerun of it recently. I was like, oh my God, I forgot how great this show was because it's so very much what it is to be an 11, 12, 13-year-old girl. Still, like it was actually pretty great. So
Okay. What is your favorite adult cartoon? Like Family Guy?
Oh, I really loved Arcane.
Oh.
I love that.
And I think, is there anything else I've watched? Again, not watching a lot. It came out in 2017. Angelina Jolie produced it. It was a feature film, not a television show. Gonna look it up. It's been a long time since I've cried that hard at a cartoon. Let me look it up. And
The Breadwinner?
Yes, it was The Breadwinner. Yeah. That one just stuck with me.
Okay. It sounds good. A
Oh
young
gosh.
girl in Afghanistan who disguises herself as a boy to support her family after her father is in prison. Okay,
Yeah.
deep.
Oh gosh. If you get a chance to see it. But be prepared. It's not light viewing.
Sounds like a tearjerker.
Yeah, no, it was hard to watch. It was
Okay.
brilliantly animated and brilliantly voiced. It was one of those projects that fired on all cylinders. And I was like, this is what animation is supposed to do. Um, yeah. So I really want to see Flow for the same reason. I haven't seen Flow yet.
Mm.
I heard good things about Flow.
Yeah. And it's this is another thing I love about the European animation scene is that people make things because of the way this animation scene works. They make things because they want to.
Yeah.
And so when you go to like in Lisbon, there's this wonderful festival called the Monster Festival, which is a celebration of European animation every year. And they have 3 nights where they just run stuff for hours. Like you can buy a ticket and just sit in the theater and watch like 25 shorts and 4 features. And it's like, 30 euro for the whole weekend, like it's great. And the kinds of things that come through. There was this gorgeous piece I saw last year, whose name I can't remember. My apologies to the creator. It was about a woman who was abused by her husband, and it was hand drawn, and parts of it were colored in, and parts of it weren't. And as she fought back, it slowly became more and more colorful, kind of. And the way they depicted abuse was fascinating and so honest. And I wish I could remember the name of it.
It was a short?
It was a short. Yeah, it was like 20 minutes long. Oh gosh, I can't remember the name of it, but the way they depicted the abuse, I can actually look it up. You know what? Was the most honest depiction of abuse I think I've ever seen, and it was done very simply and elegantly. And I was like, I wish every child, I wish this was shown in classrooms, in spaces for people in recovery, for victims of abuse, so they can recognize what it is, because sort of the way they presented it was in that insidious way that it kind of creeps up on you, and you're like a fish in a pot, and the water is slowly rising, and you don't realize that you're boiling until you are, and it was that depiction of it wasn't what they used, but it was that sort of feeling. I don't want to give too much away about it. See if I can find the name.
What's the festival called again?
The Monstra Festival.
Was it I'm seeing Sunshine. Was that what it's called?
I'm looking to see if the 2024 videos are still listed. I think they might have the 2025 videos now. Oh no, maybe not. Maybe it's still here. Oh, I wish I could find it. I remember writing it down because I was like, oh, I have to keep this in my brain. I want to see this again. And I don't remember where I wrote it. What is that?
Hear it?
Okay. Well, we can get that later.
Yeah, I will find it, but yeah.
I will add that to our thing. All right. Yes. 3 more questions. I think you already answered this, but who is your favorite current dancer?
That's Will West.
Okay, Will West.
Yes.
Favorite Black superhero?
Oh, Blade.
Blade, okay.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Who is your favorite Black character whose skin is not black?
That's a great way to ask it. That's very clear.
Yeah.
What?
Like, I said Panthro. And I said Skeeter. I know we had a guest on who said Sonic because of Jaleel White.
Mm.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to say something outside of animation?
Yes.
There's a book called Larissa.
Okay.
And if you look up Larissa, it has on the cover a sort of white girl with long brown hair and big boobs. It's a sci-fi novel. And you start reading it, and about 15 pages in, you realize it's hard SF about a Black woman.
Oh, wow.
And it's brilliant. And I don't know what happens between the author writing it and the publishers publishing it. But it always sort of broke my heart that in order to get it sold, that author agreed to that cover, because it's brilliant. It's actually brilliant. Let me see if I can find the book again. But I remember reading it. I like picked it up at a like a secondhand bookshop. There's a science fiction novel, and that halfway into the first chapter, I was like, wait, this character's Black. Wait, what? This is awesome. I was so excited. I think I was like 14 or 15 when I read it. Yes, Larissa by Emily Davenport.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's okay. So it was published in 93. So I was reading it in high school.
Yeah.
And I just remember loving it, and being thoroughly confused as to why,
who that person is on the cover.
Yeah, I was like, wait, what is this? And it was a really great book. So yeah.
Okay. Final question. Who is your favorite rapper turned actor?
It's a toss-up between Ice-T and he was in Crash and
Ludacris.
Thank you, and Ludacris. Yeah.
Although,
yeah, it's a toss-up. Although, I mean, can we really call Common a rapper? Common's doing good work too.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's a toss-up between Ice-T and Ludacris.
All right, Paula, you have completed this whole podcast. We know that you want to go get something to eat, but we just have some more final things. It is almost over, I promise.
No, you guys have been lovely.
Okay, everybody, you can email your questions for the 17 questions or our usual question segment to blackgeekenergy@gmail.com. You can follow us on social media, Instagram Black Geek Energy, Facebook Black Geek Energy, Blue Sky Black Geek Energy, TikTok Black Geek Energy, YouTube Black Geek Energy, Twitch Black Geek Energy, Threads Black Geek Energy, Twitter, BGE_pod. And you know what, DeMarcus? We got a Patreon, and it's only $3 a month.
10 cents a day.
Yeah. So if you want to hear DeMarcus really getting on my nerves, then you can subscribe to the Patreon.
Reverse the dynamic, because Jared always gets my nerves.
Well, you know. Yeah, so this has been an amazing episode. Paula, thank you so very much for taking the time out of your busy schedule, doing all this voiceover work in 2 different countries for 44 different languages. I think that's what Iyanu is being translated into, and doing all of this stuff for our entertainment. So thank you so much. Just continue doing what you're doing. People like me are very appreciative of you. And
thank you guys so much. Thank you both.
Yeah, and we are appreciative of all the work that you've done so far.
Do you have any channels you want folks to find you on, follow you?
You can find me on Instagram at pdubs2020. I actually am slowly divesting myself of all things meta. So you can also just go to my website. There's a contact me page. If you have questions, or if you're a voiceover artist who wants to be considered for my roster, you can upload stuff there. There's on the contact me page, there's a place where you can upload your resume and your reels. The website, sorry, is www.pepsqually.com.
Yeah.
That's for both my US and European arms.
And I'll link it in the bottom of this page. And I'm also going to submit my voice just in case you ever want like a gay witch to be in any of your productions.
Jared, I will put you wherever I can. Go ahead and submit your stuff.
Exactly. I can quickly make you a clip. I can, read something. I can find it online. And yeah.
Thank you. Oh, and we also do produce actors reels. So if you're an actor who needs a reel, feel free to reach out. When I have time, I will direct reels, and we sound design them and make them sound all pretty for you and all that good stuff. So just let us know. We try to help folks out.
A multi-hyphenate queen.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you both.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank y'all for listening to Black Geek Energy.
Iyanu.